On the night of my in-law's anniversary celebration, I stepped away from the dinner table to answer a call. I never expected to hear my own name whispered behind a closed door. I froze when I heard the words, "Tonight we break Aurora. Be ready to hit record." In that moment, I realized they were planning something far more dangerous than humiliation. They were preparing to destroy my life. And that night, everything I thought I knew changed forever. Stay until the end. You will not believe what they tried to do to me. I always believed that families should feel safe, warm, and welcoming. I believed that love protected people, not destroyed them. I believed that Blake's world would become my world, and that joining his family would be something I could be proud of. I was wrong. The night everything changed was supposed to be a beautiful celebration. Blake's parents were celebrating their 35th wedding anniversary, and the entire Hayes family gathered at their estate. The moment we stepped inside, I felt the familiar weight of silent judgment pressing against my shoulders. Expensive chandeliers sparkled above us, the smell of expensive perfume filled the room, and crystal wine glasses clinked gently as people toasted and laughed. Everyone pretended to love each other, but I could feel the tension hiding underneath the polished surface. Especially from Victoria Hayes, my mother-in-law. She approached slowly, her smile sharp and cold, her hands clasped like she was holding back something dangerous. She leaned in and kissed my cheek lightly, but her voice was flat when she whispered, "Try not to embarrass us tonight." I forced a gentle smile. I had learned long ago that responding to her cruelty only fueled her control. Blake stood beside me stiffly, avoiding my eyes. He had been distant for weeks, and I kept telling myself it was stress. Work pressure. Exhaustion. Something normal. But deep down, my instincts were screaming. We sat for dinner, surrounded by cheerful conversation and fake laughter. I looked around the long table, filled with people who claimed to care about family, while I felt more like an outsider than ever. The lights seemed too bright, the air too heavy. Halfway through the meal, my phone buzzed in my purse. I stood up and stepped into the hallway to check it, needing a moment to breathe away from the noise. The corridor was dim and quiet. I felt a wave of relief wash over me. But then I heard something. Voices. Low, hurried, urgent. Coming from the half-open door at the end of the hallway. I almost walked back to the table, but one word stopped me. My name. "Tonight we break Aurora. Be ready to hit record." My heart slammed against my ribs. I pressed myself against the wall and leaned close enough to hear more clearly. I recognized Victoria's voice immediately. When she reacts, we take everything from her. She will lose control, and we will have it all on video. Once we prove she is unstable, the court will side with Blake. She will sign whatever we need. My hands went numb. It felt like every bone inside me turned to ice. I could barely breathe. I heard another voice respond, one I knew too well. "Make sure the cameras are hidden." One emotional outburst and she is finished. Blake. My husband. The man I trusted. The man I believed loved me. The room began spinning. I pressed my hand over my mouth to stop myself from making a sound. I wanted to burst through the door and scream. I wanted to throw every glass in that dining room and tell them I knew everything. That was exactly what they wanted. They wanted to break me. They wanted to record my reaction. They wanted evidence of a woman losing her mind. I felt a vibration in my hand. I looked down at my phone. A new message from an unknown number appeared on the screen. "Get out of there. Do not let them see fear." My heart pounded louder. I wanted to run. I wanted to escape. But I also wanted to know what was going to happen next. My hands trembled violently. I stepped away slowly and forced myself to breathe. Calm. Silent. Invisible. I walked back into the dining room pretending nothing was wrong. As I approached the table, Victoria turned and stared directly at me. Her eyes were sharp, waiting for the moment I would break. Her lips curled into a quiet smile, like she already tasted victory. Blake placed his hand on top of mine. His touch felt foreign, cold, and calculated. "Aurora, are you all right? You look pale." His words were sweet, but his eyes were filled with anticipation. He was waiting for me to explode. To cry. To scream. To give them exactly what they needed. I smiled. I am fine. Thank you. His expression faltered for a second. Victoria glanced at Blake with irritation. Dinner continued with forced smiles and empty conversation. I could hear my own heartbeat louder than their voices. I felt like I was trapped inside a cage with predators waiting for the perfect moment to tear me apart. But I did not break. Not yet. When the meal ended, Blake whispered, "We need to talk later." And I whispered back without looking at him, "Yes. We do." He thought I would fall apart. He thought I would be fragile and afraid. But he did not know what I heard. He did not know what message I received. He did not know the fire building inside me. As I walked out of the room into the cool night air, I inhaled deeply, steadying myself against the darkness. If they wanted a war, they had chosen the wrong woman. I would not let them destroy me. I would burn their lies to the ground. When we returned home that night, the house felt unfamiliar, like a place designed for someone else entirely. Every clock tick sounded louder, every shadow felt like it held a secret. Blake walked ahead of me, silent and stiff, heading straight for his office without saying a word. I stood in the hallway, frozen, wondering how long he had been planning to destroy me. Weeks. Months. Our entire marriage. My stomach twisted. I wanted answers, but I also knew the truth would not come from his mouth. I needed proof. Something stronger than tears or accusations. I waited until the sound of Blake's voice drifted through his closed office door. He was talking quietly on the phone again. His tone was sharp, anxious, nothing like the calm facade he used around others. "Tomorrow is our chance. She will break. Get everything ready. The lawyers are waiting." I felt my pulse quicken. If I confronted him right now, I would give him exactly what he wanted. Evidence of emotional instability. Something he could twist. Something that could be used to prove I was unfit, irrational, dangerous even. Not tonight. Not like this. I stepped away silently and climbed the stairs to our bedroom. The room looked exactly the same as always, but something felt wrong. My eyes scanned the space slowly. On the shelf, a photo frame seemed slightly moved. The small decorative candle near the window looked out of place. The mirror facing the bed was angled differently than before. A shiver ran through my entire body. Someone had been in this room. Someone had moved things. I moved closer to the mirror and pressed my fingers along the edges. My heart dropped when I felt something small and cold attached behind the glass. I pried the backing open and discovered a tiny black camera, barely larger than a coin. A hidden camera. My breath caught in my throat. I checked behind the tall vase in the corner. Another one. Under the lamp. Another. One. Under the lamp. Another. 3 cameras in one room. They were not planning to break me with words. They were preparing to record my collapse. They wanted to build a case that I was mentally unstable. They wanted proof that I was dangerous to myself or someone else. They wanted to take everything from me. Legally. I sank to the floor for a moment, pressing my palms against the cold wood. I let myself feel the shock. The betrayal. The ache. But only for a moment. Then I stood up straighter than ever. I pulled my phone from my pocket. The unknown number that had messaged me earlier still sat on the screen. My hands trembled as I typed back. "Who are you?" I waited. Seconds stretched long and heavy. Then the reply appeared. "Someone who knows what they did to you. Do not react. They are watching every move." My heartbeat pounded in my ears. "What do they want from me?" The reply came immediately. "Everything. Your name. Your assets. Your life. They did the same thing to someone else before you. I can prove it." I swallowed hard, feeling the room tilt slightly. "How do I know I can trust you?" "You have no choice. Check the red folder under Blake's desk drawer. Then meet me tomorrow. Alone." I stared at the screen, my fingers cold and stiff. Was this another trap? Or was this the only chance I had to survive? Slowly, silently, I crept downstairs toward Blake's office. The lights were still on. His voice was still sharp on the phone, rising with frustration. I do not care what it takes. She will lose control tomorrow. She always breaks. She is weak. Weak. The word sliced through me like glass. I waited until I heard Blake walk away into the bathroom, the water running loudly through the pipes. Then I slipped inside his office quickly and carefully opened the bottom drawer of his desk. At first I saw nothing but old papers and scattered receipts. But then, under a stack of files, I saw it. A red folder. My fingers shook as I pulled it out. Inside were legal documents, financial transfer requests, and a drafted psychological evaluation request accusing me of emotional instability, paranoia, and violent tendencies. My hands turned ice cold. They planned to declare me unfit. Take control of my property. Remove me from my own life. And no one would question it, because they would have video proof of my breakdown. A sound echoed behind me and I jumped, slamming the folder shut. Blake stood in the doorway, eyes narrowed, face unreadable. What are you doing in here, Aurora? His voice was calm. Too calm. The voice of a man who believed he had already won. For a moment, fear gripped my throat, threatening to choke me. But I remembered the message. Do not react. I smiled gently and held up a random sheet of paper I grabbed from the desk. I was just looking for the receipt for the car repair. You said you had it somewhere in here. He stared at me long enough to make my skin crawl. Then he stepped closer, forcing a smile that never touched his eyes. You should get some sleep. Big day tomorrow. Yes, I said quietly. It will be. I walked past him slowly, feeling his gaze burning into my back. Once inside the bedroom, I shut the door and took a long steady breath. My hands were shaking, but my heart was steady now. I opened my phone again. Where do we meet tomorrow? The reply came instantly. At the old greenhouse behind the park at 11 a.m. Come alone. Trust nobody. I stared at the message, feeling something shift inside me. Fear turned into resolve. If they wanted a war, they would get one. But I would not be the one who fell apart. I would be the one who survived. I barely slept that night. My mind replayed every word I overheard, every plan they made to destroy me. The house felt like a cage filled with hidden eyes watching my every breath. I lay awake listening to Blake's footsteps moving between rooms, the hum of whispered phone calls, and the quiet click of doors opening and closing as if he were preparing for something. By morning, I had made my decision. I was done being afraid. At 10:40 a.m., I slipped out of the house without a sound. The sky was grey and heavy, the kind of sky that warns something big is coming. The air tasted sharp, metallic, and tense. I walked quickly, every heartbeat pushing me forward. The old greenhouse sat behind the park, half hidden by trees. Its glass panels were cracked and covered in dust, sunlight leaking through in narrow streaks. A chill ran through me as I stepped inside. Someone stood near the far wall, head down, hands in pockets. When he turned, I recognized him instantly. Cole Morgan. Blake's cousin. We had spoken only a handful of times over the years, but he had always been the only person in that family who looked at me with real empathy. Now his eyes were tired and filled with something darker than sadness. Aurora, he said quietly. Thank you for coming. I kept my distance. Tell me why you contacted me. Tell me why you are helping me. Cole exhaled slowly. Because I have watched this family do the same thing before. They destroyed someone I cared about. They made her look insane, and by the time anyone realized the truth, it was too late. They stole her life and walked away clean. I will not let them do that to you. My hands shook as I asked. Who was she? My sister. His voice cracked. Her name was Emilia. She was engaged to Blake's brother. When she discovered financial fraud inside the family business, they silenced her. They drugged her, recorded her when she lost control, and convinced a court she needed psychiatric care. She never recovered. A burning sting filled my eyes. Why did you not speak up? I tried. But no one listened to me then. I did not have proof. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small flash drive. This time we do. I have recordings. Documents. Evidence that shows everything. We just need the right moment to expose them. My breath trembled. What do we do now? They planned to provoke you tonight at a private dinner. They want to break you emotionally so they can carry out their legal plan tomorrow morning. But instead of reacting, you will stay calm. You will let them talk. Let them brag. Let them confess everything. We will record all of it and hand it directly to Detective Harper Quinn. She is waiting for my signal. I stared at Cole, my lungs tightening. So tonight we walk into their trap. Yes, he said softly. But it will be their trap, not yours. A long silence stretched between us. Then I nodded. I am ready. Cole looked at me with a strange mix of admiration and sorrow. You are stronger than they think. That is what scares them most. We walked out of the greenhouse together, our plan set. That evening, Blake told me with a chilling smile. My mother wants us over for dinner. Just the family. We need to talk about the future. I matched his smile perfectly. I would like that. The dinner table was set exactly like the night before. Crystal glasses, polished silverware, and candles burning too brightly. Victoria sat at the head of the table, Blake to her right, and empty seats waiting for us. Thank you for coming, Aurora, Victoria said, voice coated in sugar. We know things have been difficult. Tonight we want to clear the air. Blake placed a hand on my back, guiding me into my chair. Let us talk honestly, he said, pretending warmth. But hidden in his eyes, I saw victory. He thought I was doomed. That tonight would be the night I exploded. That cameras hidden in the corners of the room would catch everything he needed. Victoria leaned forward, voice cold beneath her polite smile. Do you know what your problem is, Aurora? You are too emotional. Too fragile. A woman like you cannot handle real responsibility. You were never strong enough for this family. I felt the air tighten in my chest. Every muscle inside me wanted to scream. To throw the wine glass into her face. To tear the room apart. I forced myself to breathe slowly. Calm. Steel. I appreciate your honesty, I said softly. Victoria blinked, confused. That was not the reaction she expected. Blake leaned closer, whispering so softly only I could hear. Show them who you really are. Go ahead. Do it. I turned my head slowly and looked into his eyes. No. Silence fell around the table like a dropped stone. Victoria's smile cracked. What did you say, dear? I said no. I am not giving you what you want. A loud click sounded from behind us. Cole stepped into the dining room holding a small device. Police sirens echoed faintly outside. Blake's face turned white. What is this? He demanded. Cole's voice rang through the room. Everything you have said tonight was recorded. Every word. Along with the evidence you thought you erased. Detective Quinn is outside right now, waiting to take your statements. Victoria shot to her feet. You traitor. You have no idea what you have done. Cole stared at her coldly. I know exactly what I have done. I stopped you from destroying another innocent life. The front door burst open. Police officers rushed inside. Blake lunged toward me, rage twisting his face. You ruined everything. Do you hear me? Everything. I stepped back calmly, my voice steady and clear. No, Blake. I saved myself. Officers restrained him as he thrashed violently, screaming threats that no longer had power. The moment felt like an earthquake tearing through my life. But instead of falling apart, I stood tall. Their plan had shattered. Not me. 2 months later, I stood outside the courthouse steps, the cold morning air brushing against my face. Reporters crowded around the entrance, their cameras flashing like lightning, voices rising above one another in urgent chaos. The Hayes family scandal had spread across headlines faster than anyone expected. People wanted the truth. They wanted answers. They wanted justice. I was no longer afraid of any of them. Inside the courtroom, the seats were filled. Lawyers, journalists, former employees, and strangers who followed the trial sat waiting. I felt a quiet strength rising inside me as I walked to the front with Cole and Detective Harper Quinn by my side. Cole gave me a small nod, steady and reassuring. Across the room, Blake sat handcuffed, his face pale and hollow. His eyes found mine, filled with anger and disbelief, as if he still could not understand how his perfect plan had fallen apart. Victoria sat beside him, tense and rigid, her lips pressed tightly, her posture no longer confident or superior. Without their power, without their money, without control, they looked small. The judge entered and the room fell silent. Today we will hear final statements in the case regarding charges including financial conspiracy, identity fraud, coercion, psychological manipulation, evidence tampering, and attempted entrapment. I felt Cole's hand lightly touch my shoulder in support. The prosecution presented the recordings captured during the dinner. Victoria's voice filled the courtroom speakers, venomous and calculating. When she reacts, we take everything from her. She will sign whatever we need. Blake's voice followed, calm and cruel. One emotional outburst and she is finished. She is weak. As their words echoed through the room, I watched their faces collapse under the weight of their own conspiracy. Cameras captured every change in their expression. Some people gasped. Some whispered. The truth was undeniable now. When the prosecutor finished, the judge turned to me. Mrs. Aurora Hayes, would you like to speak before sentencing? My legs felt heavy, but my heart felt light. I stood and walked to the center of the courtroom. Every sound faded until I could only hear my own breath. I looked directly at Blake and Victoria. For months, I believed I was losing everything. I believed I was alone, afraid, and powerless. I believed that I was the problem. But now I understand the truth. The goal was never to solve anything. The goal was to destroy me. You wanted to break me so you could take everything I had. I paused, steadying my voice. You hid cameras in my home. You recorded me without my consent. You planned to convince the world that I was unstable and untrustworthy. You wanted to erase me. But instead of breaking, I learned how strong I am. I learned that silence protects abusers, and speaking the truth destroys them. You took your shot. And you missed. The room stayed silent. Every face turned toward me. I finished with a calmness I had never known before. I survived. And I am free. The judge nodded respectfully. Thank you, Mrs. Hayes. He turned to Blake and Victoria. This court finds the defendants guilty. He began reading the sentence slowly. Blake Hayes and Victoria Hayes are hereby sentenced to 16 years in state custody for conspiracy, fraud, coercion, and attempted entrapment. Restitution of full financial damages will be paid to the victim, Mrs. Aurora Hayes. A lifetime restraining order will also be issued immediately. The gavel struck. It felt like the final door of a long nightmare slamming shut. Blake jerked up, shouting as officers grabbed him. You ruined my life, Aurora. You will regret this. I looked at him with unwavering calm. No, Blake. You ruined your own life. Victoria screamed that she would appeal, but nobody listened. Officers dragged them away, their voices fading down the hallway until there was nothing left but silence. The silence felt powerful, peaceful, pure. Cole stepped beside me, his eyes full of relief. You did it, Aurora. No, I said softly. We did it. Thank you. He smiled sadly. Emilia would be proud of you. Tears blurred my vision, but they felt different than before. Not from pain. From release. Detective Quinn approached. If you ever need anything in the future, you call me. I mean that. I nodded gratefully. I walked out of the courthouse doors into the sunlight. The sky was bright and open, a breath of clean air filling my lungs. For the first time in a long time, I felt alive. I felt whole. I stood on the steps and lifted my face to the sky. My life begins now. And it did. The world did not break me. The truth saved me. And I walked forward into freedom. Thank you for watching my story. If you have ever been betrayed, controlled, or silenced, remember this. Silence protects the abuser, but speaking out destroys them. You are stronger than you think, and you deserve freedom and truth. Subscribe to TwistRoom for more real emotional stories with powerful endings. And always remember, nothing is what it seems, until the twist reveals everything.